What is going on, everybody? It's Dave in here helping you play creatively. But recently I created a piano tutorial of At the Cross, and you can find that on the piano membership site. There you'll find a beginner one if you're just getting started on the piano. You'll find something a little bit more intermediate if you need something a bit more challenging. And then obviously I'm going to have one that's really advanced that offers some creative ideas. Well, today we're going to explore how do you come up with creative ideas for a song. I'm going to give you really a three-step process, okay? So without any more of this intro stuff, let's get right to the lesson. So one of the first things I do when trying to come up with creative ideas is I look at the song in its most basic form. So I'm going to look at the song and just examine the melody. So I'm going to write down the melody. And I'm going to write it all out. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out all the basic chords of this song. So just basic major and minor chords. And I'm going to play that through, right? I'm going to write it all out. I don't even want any passing chords, nothing fancy. I want to see the song in its most basic form, okay? So that's really step one, is I want to look at the song in its most basic form. Step two is where I'm going to now take the song and I'm going to add some seventh chords, and I'm going to add some chord substitutions, and then I'm going to add some really basic diminished chords. And so that would look something like this for the beginning of it, where you have at the cross, where I first saw the light. Instead of playing it like, I might just go ahead and add some seventh chords to this. And then the next thing I said I'm going to do in this step two process is I'm going to go ahead and add some chord substitutions. And one of my favorite chord substitutions to go to is really substituting a major chord for its relative minor. So in this case, we can substitute a major chord here. We have C major, and we can substitute it for A minor. And we don't even have to substitute it in its entirety. We can just substitute it for part of the measure. So it could be like this. And then something I can do there too is I can substitute this G major chord for its relative minor, which is going to be E minor. Right? Now, I didn't keep that in the way I played it, but I just want you to understand the concept, okay? And then the next part in this step two area is that I'm going to go ahead and add some diminished chords. Now, I like to use diminished chords going to a minor chord. And so the way I think about it is if I'm going to play, let's say, A minor, I'm going to think about the diminished chord that's just one half step below it. So one half step below A is A flat or G sharp, okay? So we're going to play a G sharp minor, go into A. But if we're following the pattern of the song, we have so right there on that burden of my heart, we have a D minor chord, right? And so what I want to do there, which by the way, that D minor chord came there as a substitution, which was originally an F. But instead of playing the F, I played the D minor. All right. Anyway, so now I want to use a diminished chord going to that D minor chord. So here I'm going to play a diminished chord rather quickly. So, and the diminished chord is going to be C sharp diminished, by the way, which is just one half step below D minor, all right, or D. Okay, so. And that's giving me some nice tension. Now remember what we said in this step two process. We're really adding seventh chord. So For my major chords, I'm adding major 7 chords and dominant 7 chords when appropriate. And then I'm adding minor 7s to my basic minor chords. So instead of just playing A minor, I'm making that minor 7. And then I'm adding just basic diminished passing chords. So thinking if I'm going to play a D minor here, I'm going to go 1/2 step below to C sharp, then making that a C sharp diminished going to D minor, okay? And then remember, there's still sevenths. Sevenths kind of rule this step 2 process, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and make that a diminished 7, okay? And I'm keeping the melody, obviously. All right, so now in step 3, we think really about a lot of 2-5-1 progressions. Or I say I think about a lot of 2-5-1 progressions. And that's where the creative ideas begin to take shape, okay? Or I should say creative ideas begin to take shape. The song begins to take more of a shape that I want it to look like, or I want it to sound like, okay? So a good part of this would be, let's see, where I first saw the light. So in this section right here, where I play, first saw the light and the burdens of my heart. What I want to do there is going to that same D minor chord, I want to play a 2-5-1. So instead of playing that G, right, I'm going to play the 2-5-1 of D minor, which is E, half diminished 7, going to an A, just think for now, A dominant 7 chord to D minor, okay? And so it can work. Where I first saw the light and the burdens, right? Now, it's 2-5-1 because E is the 2 in the E half diminished 7 is the 2 within the D minor 7 scale. A dominant 7 is the 5 within the D minor scale. Okay, let's D natural minor. All right. So I'm really thinking I'm thinking a lot of 2-5-1s here. Now, the way I came up with these chords wasn't just sticking to that. That was really the structure I thought about. But it doesn't necessarily work with the melody, and so I adjusted my chords a bit. Where I first saw the light, right? So what I do here is, when I play this E half diminished 7, I am going to think about going to that A dominant 7 chord as really a rootless chord. And so to do that, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my D down to C sharp. Okay? So that's how I come up with the voicing for this chord. So, but it's rootless because there's no A. Okay? So all right. And I keep the B flat, and I just make this really, the chord then becomes an A7 flat 9, okay? But I just want you to see how I come up with these ideas. Let's look at another 2-5-1 here. Let's look at and the burdens of my heart. So, and the burdens of my heart, and the burdens of my heart roll away. Okay, so way. So here we're gonna go to "It Was There by Faith." So it was there. We're gonna go to this F here, and I want to play a 2-5-1 going to that F. Well, here I'm gonna think about a major 2-5-1. And that major 2-5-1 here is G minor 7 to a C dominant 7 to an F. And then also in this step 3 process, I like to add extensions already. So here it's going to be something like, and the burdens of my heart rolled away. was there, right? And so I'm thinking of 2 5 1s in this third process, and then later down in this step 3 process, I said third process, in this step 3 process, I also go ahead and I start to add thicker extensions. Okay, so that's my G minor 7, or that's my 2, right? Instead of keeping it G minor 7, I make it a rootless 9 chord. And then I play it like this. I said, yeah, I make it a rootless 9 chord in my left hand, but in my right hand, I play this move right here. And actually, I have the 11 in there as well. And then I do this to get to the 5. And so then we have a C13 with a flat 9. Right? Anyway, I just wanted to walk you through this process a little bit. So let's review so we understand what's happening, because we're certainly getting into the weeds, all right? And you can get into the weeds if you, for each section of this song, if you go ahead and just check out the different tutorials. And so there are 3 tutorials, so you don't have to start off with this stuff right here. But certainly if you want to get there, you can start off with the basic, move on to the intermediate one, and then certainly move on to the advanced. But let's review. In step 1, I just write down the melody and I write down the chords, all right? The basic chords, no fluff, all right? And then in step 2, I go ahead and I start adding 7th chords. I start adding some substitutions. My favorite substitution is probably going to be the substituting a major chord for its relative minor. And I do that wherever I like it, okay? And then I start to add some diminished chords. And I think within the framework of everything being within 7s, okay? So it's going to be major 7s, minor 7s, dominant 7s, diminished 7s, okay? Then in step 3, I start to add more 2 5 1 progressions to everything, okay? And then I also start to add thicker extensions. So I move over to 9s, flat 9s, 13s, 11s, flat 13s, everything in between there, okay? So that's the process for this. Hey, do me a favor. If there is a question you have about the piano, something that you saw in this video that you're like, hey man, I was a little bit confused there, feel free to drop a question in the chat and I will be sure to answer it in another video. Until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and we'll all keep growing together. I'll see you guys next week.